press. Okay, so everything's recording now. So welcome again. This is week, is it 6? Is that right? Okay, good. All right. So the great thing about week 6 is that we're nearly halfway through. So I think this is wonderful. And don't forget, your participation is very important. And we have presenters, 2 groups presenting tonight. Our first group will present in a similar way as, actually they may be more innovative, but they're working with the similar content as the groups who presented last week. So 2 more factory comparisons, and we want you to pay attention and to understand what is going on. The second group presenting tonight, and so that first group presenting tonight is the A team. Is that correct? Put your hand up if you're the A team. Where's our A team? Okay, good.
Yes, correct.
Excellent, wonderful. Okay, and the second group is presenting a different type. They're working with a little more complex set of videos because they are actually presenting on 2 factory audits I did not long ago. So, and that team is G7, correct? Can you put your hand up for G7?
Yep, I think my teammate are not in yet because 2 of them has just left.
Understand. Okay. All right. Yeah. So there's 4 on your team. There's Dan,
yes.
Sutkin, Shumei, and Han. Excellent. Wonderful. All right. So you're actually presenting on an actual audit case I did. So there's a little bit more detail there. So I need the whole class to pay specific attention to that presentation. And we're always expecting more for each week as we go through, because you saw last week's and then we expect you to do better than last week. That's natural because you didn't go first. So I just want to wish the teams well tonight. We'll start with the first A team. Now, G7, I was thinking you could go immediately afterwards, but might have a short break in between. But then I was thinking of doing a bit of a lecture before we got to the audit, but I don't think it really matters. But if all your team members have arrived, then we can get into it, but we can delay as I suggested earlier. But for now, let's work with the A team. Is the A team with us? So,
sir, sorry.
Yes.
No, I have a quick small request. So because we will have the poll and for our presentation instead of asking questions during our presentation. So perhaps we can have a little break after the first group so that everyone can actually open up the link, and that should work better for our presentation later.
Good. Okay, we can do that. I'm happy to do that. Okay, good.
Thanks.
All right. I think that's great. Okay. And then the G3, are you with us? No, A team. Where's the A team? Haley, Joey, Nicole, and Yishang. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sir, we actually have like an interactive link, so we kind of need everyone to join it first.
Okay. How would you like to share that? Would you like to share that in,
I'll just share the screen.
in the Hangout or in the notes?
I have to share the screen.
Yeah.
In the Hangout, is it?
So
no, like on Zoom.
On the screen.
On the screen. Well, let's have a look.
Yeah, because right now you're sharing your screen.
Right.
So,
oh,
yeah,
do you?
so I can.
Yeah, but do you want everyone to click on the link, or what do you want? What do you want the class to do?
Yes, we need everyone to click on the link.
We need everyone to have their phones on or their browser on, so that they could access their Kahoot app or website, either one. You just need your phone on or like your browser on.
But also you may want to put the hot link in the chat room.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
so we are doing
Screen
that.
will have that.
Okay, so if you can do that, put your hot link in the chat room, because they can't, even though you're sharing your screen, they can't click on the hot link in the screen. So the hot link has to go in the chat. All right, but if you want to share screen, you can. I'll stop sharing now.
All right.
Okay, and I'll let you navigate, tell the class what you want them to do. Huh? So you're using Kahoot, is it?
Yep.
Kahoot.
Haley, do you want to like brief them about this?
Yeah. So hi everyone.
Wait a minute.
So 1 minute.
Sorry. Okay, this is not officially
We're not
starting.
Yeah,
I'll
we're not
just
starting.
let you
We're not
instruct.
starting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
So-
just telling them what to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So before we start, can we have everyone to have their phones on or their browser on with them? Anyone is fine to access the Kahoot app or the website ready. So you need to enter the game pin shown on the screen prepared. So the game pin today is 88566120.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the pin is also being typed in the chat box.
Mm-hmm. So
You
whenever
can use
you're
any name
ready,
you like.
yeah, any nickname
Everyone's
you like.
coming in.
So yeah, whenever we're ready, I don't know if I can see the reaction. I don't think I can, but if you're ready, just.
My Kahoot's making noises.
You can mute it, I think. But yeah. Okay.
Okay, so now if I've just installed it, so what do I do?
You just wait at the waiting room. So when we start.
No, I'm not. No, I'm looking to join. It's not search, enter pin, right?
Yes, so you have to enter the pin.
Okay. Game pin. Okay, we're gonna play a game. All right. 8, 8, 5, 6, 1, 2, 0. Okay. Okay, this is exciting. Okay, my nickname's coming up on the screen. It should be. I'm in. Okay, and then what will it do?
So every end of our session,
Yep.
we will have a small
Short
quick
Kahoot
question.
session, yeah.
Short Kahoot session, sort of like an engagement interaction question to test if you are paying attention.
But
to
does
our...
it go? That's all it shows. But does it go to another page?
Yes, correct.
Yes, that's right, sir.
Yeah.
Because
It will start when we start.
The
All right.
page will switch when Joey switch it, like when
Okay.
main host
So is the whole
switch.
class in yet?
Right
All
now
right,
there's
so
about 19 people, but we will just go ahead anyway. The link is in the chat box. Those who want to join can just join on their own after that.
All right, good.
Yeah,
Yep.
because my teammate
So
has
we
already
just move
posted
on.
in the chat box. So now I'll proceed to start with the presentation.
Okay, first of all, let's make sure we let's have a look. Wait a minute. Hangouts group membership. Okay, so we have Haley, Joey, Nicole, and Yishang. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes,
correct.
sir.
Okay, please start when you're ready. Yep.
Okay, yeah, so good evening, everyone. We are from the A team, and my name is Haley. Here I have Joey, Nicole, and Yixiang as my teammates today, and we'll be presenting the tale of two speaker factories next. So the two factories that we'll be comparing today will be Hot, which is established in 1999, and Xscale in 2010. Both are located in Shenzhen, and Hot's factory consists of 3 floors, which is 8,000 square meters, with 12 production line and approximately 13,000 units of daily capacity, whereas Xscale has only 1 floor with 630 square meters with 1 production line and a daily capacity of 5,000 units. Hot produces MP3, MP4 players and Bluetooth speakers with an FOB rate ranging from $7 to $25 with 1,000 units of MOQ. On the other hand, Xscale produces all sorts of speakers including Bluetooth, TF card and FM speakers with 3,000 units of MOQ together with the FOB of $4 to $8. Both factories factories have CE and ROHS, but HOT has an additional of ISO, FCC, REACH, and CDIC certificates, and XKL is additionally EMC certified. Also, one interesting fact, apart from speakers, HOT actually also has been producing a body fat scanner, which is a direction that steers quite far away from what they usually produce. On the other hand, however, our recent research indicates that any of the XKL's official sites are nowhere to be found, which is a point to consider for today's discussion. So for today's agenda, we'll be covering dust-free zones, proper packaging and separation from environment, corporate social compliance, and quality control system in place before deciding which factory we would source from. Moving on, I will pass it on to Nicole.
Hello everyone, my name is Nicole and I'll be starting off with the comparisons between the dust-free zones of HOT versus XKL. As you all know, having dust-free zones and minimizing dust within a factory is important as it reduces the risk of health, safety, and hygiene hazards. It also improves efficiency within a workplace in terms of performance and cost. Here it shows that in HOT, shoe coverings are required and provided by the staff upon entry of the assembly line. This demonstrates the precautionary measures HOT has taken to ensure dust minimization. Next. Moving on to windows, both factories do have windows around the assembly line. The only difference here is that HOT's factory visit was during the warmer days, as you can see the man in short sleeve shirt. Here, the windows remain closed, whereas for XKL, Dr. Neil visited them during the winter time, as you can see that the man with the jacket on. The video shows the closed windows, however, XKL admitted they do open the windows during the warmer season. Next. Here, we will focus on the workplace environment. HOT has a visibly cleaner and neater workplace, unlike XKL, which has cardboard piles and clutter around the vicinity. Focusing on the workstation, plastic and bubble wraps are used as table coverings in HOT. However, XKL employees use cardboard instead. We highlight the presence of cardboard here as it says to escalate dust accumulation in the area, which is not what factory wants. Next. As a bonus, HOT in fact do have additional dust-free zones for testing and assembling other products. Unfortunately, this area was unexplored, therefore the clean room can only be seen from the outside. Next. To summarize, HOT is definitely superior in terms of dust minimization within its factory, especially with the precautionary measures and additional dust-free zones that XKL do not have. Now, to test if you're all paying attention, let's move to Kahoot to answer the question together. Dust buildup threatens the overall safety and efficiency of a factory. Which factory provided shoe covers upon entry? So pick the right answer and we'll move on.
Confident.
So the answer is HOT, because yeah, as you've seen just now, HOT is the only factory that provided the shoe coverings. Now I will pass the time to my teammate Joey.
All right, so hi, my name is Joey, and today I'll be taking you through this section of proper packaging and separation for environment between HOT and XKL. So in terms of separation of individual components, we can see how HOT over here has sorted their components individually into racks. So this helps prevent electron migration or any possible damage of components. Whereas XKL on the right has simply just gathered the components together in a single stack. Okay, so as for the method of passing components, we can see how XKL on the right simply throws the parts onto the conveyor belt or passes it directly to the next person's pile over here. And as for HOT on the left, you can see how they place the components carefully onto the conveyor belt instead. Yeah, over here. And moving on, we'll take a look at the storage methods before and after final packaging. So on the left for HOT, we can see how they pack the products individually and store them in a red foam rack to protect the products from any possible damage during the transportation to the next room. Whereas for XKL on the right, they simply stack the products on top of one another in a giant container. And the final packaging for HOT is done in a separate room. And here they store the final products neatly in sealed boxes, which you will see over here. Yeah. And as for XKL on the right, after the final packaging is done, the products are stored messily in open boxes in the same exact room. So it's not uncommon to find dented packaging in the process. So overall, we can see from the videos that HOT has definitely done better than XKL in terms of separation of individual components, method of passing components, method of storing before and after final packaging. So now to test whether you guys have been paying attention, let's head over to Kahoot again to try our next question. All right, so XKL's production line employees separated the components individually into racks and handled them with care. Is that true or false?
It's going quite fast, guys.
Yeah, they're damn confident. Okay, I see there are some people got it wrong. So
It's a
to those who
tricky
got it
one.
right, yeah, so to those who got it right, congratulations. The reason why the answer is false is because this picture is actually a screenshot from Hot's video and not XKL. So it was actually a trick question. So now I'll pass it on to Haley for the next section.
Okay, hi guys, it's me again, and I'll be walking you through in regards the aspect of corporate social compliances that can be found in both factories. Next. So anti-static wristbands are important because it protects and prevents both the human and the device from static electricity. As we can see here, HOT provides anti-static wristbands to their workers, whereas XKL doesn't. Next. And on the other hand, local exhaust fan, LEV, is also important because it sort of extracts up the soot produced during soldering process, which is harmful to factory workers. As shown here, HOT provides adjustable soldering fume extractor, whereas on the other hand, XKL only has a portable fan, which completely defeats the main purpose of sucking in the harmful substances. Next. So to sum up, HOT is clearly doing a better job at adhering to the corporate social compliances than XKL is. So next, moving on, surprise, surprise, it's Kahoot time again. Yep, this is the third question. To protect workers and prevent device damage, which factory provided anti-static wristbands and local exhaust fans? Is it XKL or HOT? Okay, so as explained earlier, HOT provided both anti-static wristband and LEV as to ensure a safer working environment was delivered to the workers. So it's, yeah. Anyway, I'll pass it on to Yi Xiang.
Thank you, Haley. I will now explain about the quality control systems of both factories. Next, please. Okay, first is the receiving of raw materials. As we can see in the left video, HOT has their employees to conduct the raw materials, to conduct the QC for the raw materials that they receive. This is important so that the production line does not have to conduct any QC later. And there is also a sample of products for them to cross-check against with. However, in XKL, they do not have any QC for the raw materials that they receive. This is because that they conduct the inspection right at the production line, and here is where they will reject the faulty ones. Next, please. So moving on to the QC in between the production line, as we can see, XKL conducts battery testing at the start of the production line. This is because that they do not inspect raw materials. However, on the other hand, HOT conducts resistance testing and battery workability tests. This is for another QC test at the later stage. And besides that, they also have an assembly manual that states the assembly standards at every stage. Next, please. Lastly, in the final QC stage at the end of the production line, XKL has an employee to test the sound and Bluetooth connection of all its speakers. However, on the other hand, HOT tests the products through a computer, and they also ensure charging standards by conducting a charging test of its products. Not only that, they also do conduct additional tests after the assembly line, such as lab testing of all its products. This is to ensure full functionality and to maintain a good brand image. Moving on, they also have a sound clarity test in the machine, temperature testing for both high and low temperatures to ensure functionality in overseas. And lastly, they also test for presence of hazardous substance. This is to ensure that their products are safe to use. Next, please. So to sum it up, we can see that in this table here, the major differences of the QC system of both companies is the receiving materials QC, whereas only HOT does it and XKL does not, and also the additional QC test where only HOT does it and XKL does not. So right now we will move to, okay, so right now we'll move to another Kahoot session to test your understanding of our presentation.
Wow, congrats, Hando.
HOT carries out strict materials receiving QC before assembly so that its raw materials follow set quality standards. Okay, so the answer is true. This is because that only hot carries out raw materials QC, whereas XKL does not. So right now I'll pass the floor to Joey.
All right, so to summarize, despite XKL providing a lower FOB price than hot, hot has actually done better than XKL in terms of dust-free zones firstly, because unlike XKL, which opens their windows during the summer, hot keeps them closed all year, carries out precautionary measures before entry, provides additional dust-free zones, as well as clean workspace environments for the employees. And secondly, hot also did better in terms of proper packaging and separation for environment by handling the components with care and storing the products in a more organized manner at a separate room. As for corporate social compliance, hot has provided anti-static wristbands and a local exhaust fan to protect the health of the employees. And lastly, in terms of quality control systems, SKL has only provided a bare minimum level of QC, which mostly lies in their final QC. On the other hand, HOT has provided not just the material receiving QC and final QC, but also has multiple QC stations in between the production line, as well as additional QC tests even after the final QC to ensure that their products are fully compliant to quality standards and are completely safe for export, which is why our final verdict will go to HOT. So to conclude, we'll leave it to the class to decide on your own whether or not you go with HOT or XKL, but thank you for your time and we'll now be open for questions.
Okay, everyone, questions, please.
Can I go?
Yes, please.
Yeah, sure.
In the presentation, we've seen that HOT has a very, very clear advantage over XKL in terms of their compliance, their QC and everything, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would add to improve any of their procedures or standards?
You mean for HOT?
Yeah, for HOT.
Ah, okay. I'll take that if the rest doesn't want to. But yeah, I guess in terms of the workspace environment, when Dr. New went into the production line, I guess the one main flaw would be that there wasn't any dust-free zones for all of their production lines. It's just a couple of workshops that had dust-free zones. So, but I mean, they did their best by having having that plastic covers for the shoes and all that. But I think they could have done better by installing more dust-free entrances. That could be one of it. Does my teammates want to add anything else?
Yes, I do. Oh, sorry. You go first, Nicole. You go first.
Yeah,
you go
no.
first.
Yeah, adding to the dust-free zones, because we were also looking at how other factories, like bigger factories, are doing their dust-free zones, especially for Apple in China, in an iPad factory, I believe. In addition to all this, they do also have a very full body PPE that visitors would wear before going into the factory, and also they do have these clean rooms. But it's also in terms of how much capital the factory has. So comparing Apple to HOT, Apple definitely has more money to do so. So if HOT continues to be more successful and have more profits and stuff like that, they could implement all these other dust-free precautionary measures. Yeah.
All right. Yes, and I would like to add to the QC system. I also have a look at one of Apple's factory. I believe it's an iPhone factory. What they did at the QC system is that when they do the charging test, they do actually record the charging time for every single product, so they know exactly at what time at what duration does the battery go flat. Whereas HOT does not do the recording. They just leave it there to charge for the test. So it would be actually better to have a recording so that they have a record of which product they have a record of which product of their duration, and they can see if that product's battery has been charging longer or slower or so on.
You're saying that's
that,
yeah.
I think that answers my question.
Any comment on that, group? Yeah, I think that.
Hi.
Go on.
Sorry. Hi, guys. I have a question. First of all, that's a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And second, so my question is that in terms of the quality control systems and the quality checks that are happening, don't you think an additional quality check will only take a lot of time and more resources in case? Because I think one quality check can handle the materials and the charging points. I mean, I'm not saying that that will make hot less than X scale. They'll still be better than X scale. But don't you think one quality check would be a better option?
Okay, yes, I will say it may be a better option, but this will be depending on their current capacity as well, because from what I understand that right now they are actually looking to improve further, but however they are still actually improving, and they actually do require more feedback at the moment. So yeah, I would say I do agree with you that it do actually takes time, but on the other hand, it actually do improves their brand image and reputation as well.
Ishang, can you just elaborate on your source of information about Apple? You're saying that they discharge the battery on every product, correct?
Yes, sir. They actually do a recording where they put a phone right beneath the camera, and then they do record the discharge and the charging time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Actually, that's a perfect way to really test. My experience in visiting all these factories, 40 of them now, is most of these factories do not test the discharge. They test and record the charging. So, and a lot of factories, they would actually charge a sample, and a sample for 6 or 8 hours, but for 100% of them, they'll charge 20%. And then that charge stays in there when they're packed. And then they'll take 20% of the sample and then charge them up for 100% just for their QC records. But ideally, they should be discharging to find out how good are the batteries. I hear what you're saying. That's a very, very good point on that. Yes.
Yes, I do agree, Doctor. Thank you.
Did you? I forget that video now on Hot. Did the video tell you more about their burn-in room, about the charging and discharging?
No, I don't think so.
I don't remember anything about discharging, but from what I remember, it's only charging.
Understand. All right. The other thing I could ask you, because I remember it's a couple of years since I visited Hot, did they have did they have records of when they used their QC test equipment? Because it's interesting that you said, they also test other elements of the product that XKL do not test, right? And like the lab test for sound, temperature, hazardous substances. Now, I think the video showed that they had all their equipment there, right? And I guess the question is, do they have records to show that they use that equipment?
No, sir.
I'm not sure if the video showed that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the video didn't show a lot.
Sorry about that. No,
okay.
I don't know the answer to that question for Hot, but I've been to some factories and they have all the equipment, but there's one factory where they haven't used it for a long time. They couldn't get it working. So it's so funny because I wanted them to demonstrate for me how a particular test of the headphone cords, the strength, they actually hang a weight from the headphone cord and then they wind it up and wind it down, wind it up and wind it down, do that about a couple of thousand times to make sure this is strong enough. So I asked them, can you show me how it works? And they couldn't get it working. Yeah, it's one thing to see that they got the equipment in the room, and it's another thing to know if they actually use it. In some factories, I've seen it in use. In other factories, I haven't. But okay, really, any one final last question from the class? Remember, this is all participation group. Going. Any, and Kahoot, how did you all go on Kahoot?
Oh God.
I could actually show the results also, like
Who-
who did the
who-
best. Let me
Who got
let me show
five?
you who did the best.
Who got 5 out of 5?
Let me show
If
you.
it's
Let me
not
show you.
Dr. Neil, it's gonna be an Ionic. Yisan, is
Oh.
it?
Number 3 is YX. Number 2 is Ayman. And number 1 is dun, 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 dun.
Han, well done.
Congrats.
Excellent. Well done, Han. Excellent. Yes. It's and the reason why Kahoot is giving them high marks is because Han, Amin, and Wax were the quickest to answer. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Quickest and
uh,
accuracy.
yeah, it's not only the accuracy, but it's how fast you answer.
Yeah.
So
Yes, true.
well done, Han, Amin, and Wax. And Group A team, great effort on your presentation, very sharp and actually on time. So obviously you've rehearsed and you've
Yeah.
prepared a lot in terms of the interaction with the class. So well done on that. Very, very pleased with your presentation there. Okay, but also it was so interesting to, like, you know, you got 2 factories like that. Obviously for buyers, and there's just hundreds of buyers thinking, oh, I'll source something from Alibaba or source something from China or India and I'll sell on Amazon USA. There's just hundreds of buyers every day thinking, oh, I'm going to be first to source and make money on Amazon. And they don't think to visit the factory. They think that that's not necessary. But what you're starting to realize now, like this is the third comparison of factory pairs. And I think an important learning outcome from this is that you become more sensitive to the fact that, oh, wow, I thought all factories in China were the same. But when you look closer, they're all different. They're not all the same. And I'm sure it'll be like that when you go to India. You know, you start to investigate more and more, and you start comparing factories and you realize, wow, they're all different. And that's where you just need to be careful. And until you start to see the differences, it's really hard for you to do a good job in sourcing, in supply chain management, which, you know, this is the course, supply chain management. Okay, so well done on that. Well done, team. Very, very pleased with your effort on that. Definitely rehearsed a lot on that. So that made a big, big difference. And the Kahoot, especially question and answer afterwards, was very, very nicely done. Okay, so can I move on to our next group? Can you all hear me okay?
Dr. Neil,
Yes?
I think we can't
Not
do
yet.
first because Shumei hasn't got home yet.
Oh.
Stuck on the traffic.
Oh, but that's all right, because I have, you know, I did indicate in my announcement this afternoon that your group can present after
Yeah.
part of my lecture. So I'll just explain to class the reason. The reason is, by the way, do you like my new microphone? It's good here. Just say, all right. It just keeps me alive here. All right, because I can't always see you. So I've got my little friend here. All right. So I just want to let you know that the group that's presenting on G7, they're actually presenting a factory audit I did in, I think it was 2015 or 16. And this was for a US customer. US customer contacted me and said, oh, I've got these 2 factories. I don't know which one I should buy from. And so I did a full audit report, and an audit is more than what has been presented so far. It's actually, you go into much more detail. And so this group will actually help illustrate the detail you need to go through in a factory audit. So what I'm going to do now is we'll start off, it's 7:37. What I'll do is I'll spend 20 minutes going through the first part of what I wanted to talk about. Then we'll have a short break and we'll come back, and then the group can present maybe at the second half of the next hour. So that's the planning for that. Okay. sound like a plan?
Yes, sir. All good.
Okay, Ishan, I love that. Excellent, good, fantastic. All right, so what I'm going to do, share the screen now onto mine, share. We're screen sharing now, good. So where are we up to now? This is amazing. We're suddenly up to swap presenter. Okay, verification and factory audit. We're basically up to the third part of our three-circle control framework. And we've been going around from the macro environment down to supply challenges to the three-circle control framework. Remember, this is all about for the little person, the small buyer, who doesn't have the war chest of money or the war chest of lawyers or the war chest of hundreds of engineers on the ground in the country you're sourcing from. So, what do they need to know to make sure that things do not go wrong? And as you found out last week, things can go wrong. Now, just a reminder, in week 1, I introduced this whole course to you by just showing you the macro factors that can impact on global supply chains. Now, we gave an example of China, but this can affect India, Vietnam, Cambodia, Turkey. This can affect your sourcing from any of the developing world. In week 2, we actually started to talk about the China 2025 plan. Now, why do we do that? That is an example of how governments and in developing countries, and China government is not the only one, will use their own policy to push infrastructure plans, not only in their country, but in other countries as well. And that is evidenced by the Belt and Road. And so, and the China 2025 plan is a very interesting plan. And I just want to bring your attention to what's been happening in the last 12 months or 18 months is this thing called Techno Nationalism. Have anyone heard of that before? Techno Nationalism is when you use national policy to gain an advantage over other nations through the advancement and the subsidy and of your own technology. And so you're fighting against other nations through your technology advancement. And when the China 2025 plan was advanced, the whole idea and the actual communication or the message it gave to USA and Europe was China is actually doing whatever it can to make sure that it can lead the world in technologies in 10 different industries. USA, they saw that as a threat. And over the last 18 months, they have started to talk about banning, constricting the actual acquisition by Chinese companies of US companies that have patents and control over critical technology. And this is really, really happening in the area of semiconductors. China at the moment makes 5% of the world's semiconductors. USA makes a larger percentage. Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, Germany, they are large, big producers in this area. China at the moment, for its own needs, it actually, that 5% of capacity it has serves 40% of its needs. Under the China 2025 plan, by 2025, China wants to be able to meet 70% of its needs. And USA saw that and they started to think, well, hang on, if China takes over certain technologies like 5G, for example, Huawei is the largest telecom equipment company in the world, then US is going to be at a disadvantage. And for the last 18 months to 2 years, they have set out to actually prevent China from expanding through acquisition as much as they can. So that's something I didn't really talk about in China 2025 plan, but I just want to let, the reason why you need to understand that is that in some ways that affects some parts of the global supply chain. And in other words, politics, national politics is affecting some parts of the global supply chain. So I just wanted to remind you that we don't, you know, China 2025 plan, you know, it's just one little example, but in some ways you can read, there's articles about this just about every week in the Wall Street Journal about techno nationalism. When you see that, now you know what we are talking about. Okay. In week 3, we talked about the mind of the supplier. Now, why would we ever think about that? Because I gave you a wonderful exercise where you had to look through all the surveys I did of suppliers. What I mean surveys, and that is they are summaries of responses to me asking hundreds of suppliers, thousands of suppliers, that single question, what is your number one challenge and how are you responding to that challenge? And I wanted you to start to become more sensitive to the other person in your supply chain partnership, because global supply chains are inevitably, they are partnerships with other entities. Very few multinationals own all of their supply chain. Like Intel in some ways is a vertically integrated company. Apple, some part, but for the most part, it still relies on their second tier, third tier suppliers, which Apple does not own. Okay. So, you know, it is very, very important to think about if you're in a global supply chain, then you are in a partnership. If you're in a partnership, then there is some human relationship. If you're in a human relationship, you need to try and understand, well, what's going on up here, okay? And so one way of finding that out is to ask, what is your number one challenge? How are you responding to that challenge? So that's why in week 3, we talked about the mind of the supplier and the supplier competitive manufacturing model. In other words, how are suppliers reacting to market forces? You need to know that in order to think about your global supply chain strategy, whether you just keep on pressing on price. And if you don't understand that suppliers, if they're pushed on price, they will get cheaper materials. They will outsource. They will do things without telling you. And then at the end of the day, you get a cheaper product, but the quality may be less. You may get a cheaper product, but that product goes into the consumer market and suddenly causes a fire. And now you are liable. All right. So week 3 started to make you a little bit more sensitive to, well, who is this supplier that we're talking about in the global supply chain? Okay. Then we went to week 4, where this is where we started week 4, 5, and 6 of the 3-circle control framework. And so basically, this is a strategy where you start to, at the top of that relationship, you start to think about how do we negotiate with the supplier. And it's all about value creation rather than value taking and value giving. Okay, you want to create value together. Evidence of that is a lot of my pro bono work that I've done with factories in giving them advice to help them improve operationally. Last week, I gave you the first evidence of what might go wrong if you don't pay attention to the detail of who is your supplier and, you know, what do we need to put into a contract? Really? And whether you need to have a third-party auditor. Wow. Okay. That's what we did last week, right? Because I just want to show you and, you know, as a result of what I showed you last week was the Supplier Blacklist, which is basically a repository of thousands of complaints by buyers from all around the world of suppliers all around the world as well. Like, I understand that, you know, 70, 80% of the suppliers are from China, but 25% of the suppliers are from India, Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, Turkey, all around the world as well. So it's not, we're not just picking on Chinese suppliers. These suppliers could be in any developing country around the world, and similar problems can occur. Okay, so that made you more sensitive to the fact that, well, if this bad things are going to happen, I asked you to set out, well, which audit mechanisms do you think are most relevant to protecting your relationship? And many of you got it right and said, oh, we should have a contract. We should verify who the supplier is, the business model, right? What else did we learn? We should have a third-party auditor. And maybe as a buyer, we should visit the factory. Because not all factories exist, okay? And yes, that's true, yes. And so, you know, this is what we're learning last week. And this, going through what you went through last week, is not to shock you and turn you away from sourcing, but it's to make you more mindful and more sensitive to the attention to detail that you need to pay when you are either advising a buyer, you're doing work on behalf of a buyer, you're working in a procurement team, or you're asked, you know, or you're actually buying for yourself. Because any one of you could go to Alibaba tonight and you could buy goods on Alibaba and Tmall, which is one of their subsidiaries, and put it on Amazon within 1 week and start selling and making money. Okay, it's so easy that people forget that the areas of this 3-circle control framework are very important things to get right. And so tonight we come to measurement and verification, which is the audit process. This is where you're starting to realize now you're comparing factory A with factory B. They should separate components. They should test raw materials before they come into the factory. A lot of them don't do that. They should test the products when they go to the end of the factory line, assembly line. Yes, they do that, but sometimes that's too late. Why? Because by the time they get to the end of the assembly line, they've got materials, they've got labor, they've got overhead. And so this is what you're starting to learn in factory A versus factory B. In the last presentation, there was separation differences between the factory. There was ventilation differences between the factory. Ventilation? I didn't know that products can breathe. No. No, it's not the product. The ventilation is for the workers in the factory to breathe. Don't you think they should be treated nicely as well? Yes, they should. And if you are a major brand name around the world and you are not paying attention to the factory conditions, whether it's China or India, Vietnam, any country, then your consumer will kill you if they find out that your factory's got underage labor, if they find out that your factory doesn't have proper ventilation, or the labor hours are wrong, or something else is amiss. You will, your brand will it will tarnish its reputation. Okay. So these things are very, very important to think about when we audit the factory. Now that's different from a QC audit. And tonight, the big takeaway I want you to be aware of is, number one, we need to audit the factory first. And that audit can be all about whether the factory is competent, whether the factory is operationally ready to make the product that you want to be made. that audit can be expanded to say, is the factory environmentally ready to make the product you want to be made? And can be expanded further, is that factory socially, responsibly ready to make the product you want to be made? You remember? So, you know, ventilation is an example of, are they socially responsible ready? Okay. So not all factory audits will look at the product, the social, and the environment all at once. When I was asked to do the factory audits, the main focus or the purview that my client asked me to focus on was, you should, let's just focus on the product. Okay. Yes, you can comment on the environment and the workers, but it wasn't an environmental and social responsibility audit. It was much more a factory fit to make the product audit. Okay. So just be aware of that. You know, there are different factory audits that can take place. For the most part tonight, you know, we're focusing much on the first one, but never forget that there's a social element and there's an environmental element. Okay. All right. So, you know, there are different things that we want to cover here. And I'm just mindful of the time. As we get to the top of the hour, then we'll have a break. So the big ideas tonight, first of all, it's, you know, as I said, you know, for Apple, Qualcomm, HTC, you know, these big brand names, they've got everything covered because they have hundreds of engineers on the ground in China. They have hundreds of lawyers. They, you know, everything's covered. No stone is left unturned. And for us, we rarely hear about a problem that goes wrong with an Apple product, except if you talk to people who have worked with Apple like me. And I'll be sharing with you about that in week 9 and week 10. So stay tuned for that. But for now, the big problems are likely to occur when you are a small buyer. And what if some of you wanted to go to, you could go to Alibaba or the subsidiary Tmall, and you can actually buy $200 worth of pens, or, you know, $200 worth of highlighters. And, you know, within less than a week, you could have these on Amazon and you could be selling. And a strategy I told you about in the first or second week was go and buy $200 worth of 5 different products, put them all on Amazon. And after 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, see which one is selling. And then you double down in reordering that item that's selling, and the ones they're not selling, write them off, forget about them, and then you're in the business. And that's that's the fastest way of getting started. You know, don't go and do a course. The best way is to invest $1,000 in buying five different products. Okay. All right. So sourcing, if you want to do that, well, how much does it cost to play? All right. So what I just suggest to you was buying products off the shelf. But for the most part, people always want to do more than that. They actually want to go directly to the factory and have, maybe I want this yellow pen, but maybe this yellow highlighter, maybe I want it to have a little clip here. So then I can put it in my pocket and it will hang there, and everything else being the same. So you want to tweak a product just a little bit. And so if a buyer comes to me and they say, I want to go factory direct, the first thing I'm going to tell them, and this is what we learned last week, is, well, just be careful if it's an industrial product or electronic product, because electronics is complicated. They are small and valuable, and they're easy targets for scams, because it's very easy to put 2,000 units of maybe a little digital recording pen. It's very easy to put 2,000 units of this in a little box, go in a container. It's hard to check whether that box is full of rocks or not, okay, without opening it up, okay? And very easy because it's very small, but it's valuable. And so when you do product selection, I would tell buyers to, like, you come to me tomorrow and you said, oh, I want to try this out, Neil. I've got some money to spend and to learn basically how to sell on Amazon. Well, then I would tell you, focus on sports and outdoors, or focus on office equipment or clothing or household, and stay away from industrial, electronic, other component. That's basically what we've learned from last week. Okay, what to focus on, what to stay away from. And if you're, you want to keep a very simple household, then focus on a plastic spoon. Like, you cannot get more simple than that, a plastic spoon, all right? Or a plastic computer stand, okay? Something plastic, no movable parts, and it's quick and easy, all right? And what you learned from last week is, well, you should verify the business, buy a visit, third-party QC, and contract. So, we're just sort of summarizing as we're going through the 3-circle control framework. But if you're thinking about sourcing feasibility, and if you're really serious about going to the next level where you want to tweak a product and make this product a little bit different from what you see on the market, then, sorry about that, just stay there. Okay, good, be good. Okay, then the obvious costs are production, supply chain, finance, shipping duties. The not so obvious costs are all of these: compliance, sample shipment, tooling. I told you that if you have a serious product that you need tooling for, it could cost you 40, 50,000 yuan. Okay, so we're talking about, what are we talking about? 25,000 US dollars. So 100,000 ringgit. Okay, that's not unusual for all the tooling that you might need to make the product the shape that you want. Okay. And there's due diligence, you have to pay lawyers, there's audits and legal. So you've got all these obvious and non-obvious costs. And the question is, well, Neil, stop telling me lists. Stop giving me PowerPoint slides with words in them. I want to see the numbers. Put your hand up if you want to see the numbers. Hello? Some of you. Come on, I want everyone raise their hand or put your thumb up. Who wants to see the numbers? Shumei, are you there? Sharon, are you there? Okay, so we want to see numbers, all right? So this is what it's going to cost, all right? Let's go through it. If you visit the factory, a trip to China, well, this is from US dollars. And like, excuse me, this is for China, but it wouldn't be much different if you're sourcing from India or another country. But, there's travel, an outsourced audit, less than 500. When I did the factory audits, I was paid to do 2 factory audits. I think I charged $300 a factory. So I got 600 US dollars to do the 2 factory audits for one day, okay? Normally, that's on the cheap side, 299 US dollars is the cost of having a third-party inspector go into the factory for one day. That's the cheapest you're going to get. So validate the financial stability and reputation. So maybe that's going to cost less than $500 if you get a lawyer to double check who is the company you're going to buy from, you're going to send money to. And yes, lawyers can find that out. And I've done that myself I've paid a company in Shanghai to actually get data on over nearly 300 Chinese companies that I've interviewed. It cost me basically about 50 US dollars per company to get that information. Not cheap, maybe a little bit less than that. A bilingual contract, English speaking Chinese lawyer, a few hundred US dollars, samples and prototypes, then conformance testing, US dollars, $100 US, pre-shipment, a trip to China. Like if you do an outsourced audit less than 500, remember $299 US per day. The bank fees, if you're transferring money like from overseas, even if you're transferring money from Malaysia, it's going to cost you money. As soon as you start transferring money from a different currency into US dollars or into yuan, that's going to cost you money. If you do the project management, what's the value of your time? And then you might have safety cash. So all of this can add up. Minimum, you're looking at minimum 5,000 to 10,000 US dollars just to get started if you're serious about going beyond. So, what do we mean by serious? Like any one of you could go on to Alibaba's subsidiary, where it's basically a platform where you can just buy hundreds of units of any product off the shelf and get it shipped within 24 hours. Like it's already been manufactured and you get shipped within 24 hours. Okay. Have any of you heard of Yiwu? 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 None of you? Yiwu is a huge marketplace, the south of Hangzhou. Hangzhou is the home of Alibaba, by the way. And Yiwu is probably the largest marketplace in the world. You can go there and walk out of there physically with 100 units of just about anything that has been made. Basically, it's full of rejects. It's full of stock that has come from factories that factories haven't sold. So they send it to Yiwu and sort of like a factory outlet. And it is huge. I'll show you a picture of that after the break. All right. That's all right. Stage one, all right. For 1,000 US dollars, buy from a marketplace and you spread it across 5 products, and they might be a pen, it might be a highlighter, just keep the product simple, put it on Amazon and see what happens after 1 or 2 weeks. Okay. And then if one starts to sell, then you go and order more of that and then you're in business. All right. So what's on this PowerPoint page is nothing to do with that. This is when you go to the next level. That is, I want to get more serious than that. I want to make a serious product that this is associated with my brand and it's different from other products on Amazon. In other words, I'm not competing on price anymore. I'm competing because of the design of the product. So now it's going to cost you a minimum of 5,000 to 10,000 US dollars. You see what I mean? So that's what this slide is referring to. Okay. So we're going to have a break shortly. I just want to remind you that my associate Mike Bellamy made a beautiful video on quality control. If you watch it in Udemy, then there's the PowerPoint slides that go with it. I've also put the video without the PowerPoint slide into YouTube, and so you can watch it in the YouTube. And it's very nice. It goes for over 40 minutes, so it's a very nice one. But after the break, what we're going to do briefly, I just want to start to introduce you to quality, and maybe after the break, can we do our next presentation? Where's our next presenter? Your group, are you ready?
Yep.
Or are you all accounted for? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the rest.
Okay, so that's great. So I think that's a good time. So we'll have a break. When we come back, then we'll have the next group present. And that's really, really good timing because the next group is going to present a factory audit, a real factory audit that I did. And then after that, then we go into quality control. Now, quality control comes after the factory audit. After you've decided on your factory, you do the factory audit, you choose one or the other, which the group will take you through. And then once you've chosen that factory and then you start ordering from that factory, now you need to control the quality of the manufacturing of your product. And then that's what we're going to do in the last part tonight. So let's have a break for 9 minutes or 8 minutes. I think 8 minutes, and I'll see you back in 8 minutes, and then our next group can be ready to present. Sound like a plan? Okay, see you in 8 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. That will take us to 8:15. Thank you. Okay, so we're recording now, and now we have one group. Is that right? Ready to go, is it?
Yep.
Okay, let me put that. Okay, now group, do you want to bring the attention to the class of anything before we start?
If you guys could go to the link that's there in the chat box, that would be nice, and answer the questions as we go through the slides.
A link in the chat box. And also, did you ask for a particular app to be downloaded?
No need. Just on the
You
browser.
just have to go to the link. There's no need for an app.
Oh, because in the Hangouts you said poll EV, right?
Yeah, they just have to go to the link on the, it's a web page basically.
Oh, okay, let me do that.
Thank you.
That's, oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, so far we have only got about 10 of you that have registered.
Well, let's make sure.
Start the survey now.
No, let's make sure everyone, no, not yet, but let's make sure everyone's in there.
Yes, just, I mean, you could actually start now, but it's just that you will not be able to answer until we reach that particular slides.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to do anything until that particular slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can just log it, like open up the link first. So Dr. we have yet to send you the summary report because we would like to actually add this summary, add the results into the summary.
That no problem at all. That's I'm just getting your names down. That's fine.
There are about 16 of us that has log into the survey. So I guess we can get started.
Yeah, everyone, please, logging in is part of your participation, everyone. So we're making note of participation as we go through this course. So it's all part of it, being active and helping your own team members when they're presenting. Okay, start when you're ready. We have G7, is it?
Yep.
G7, good luck. And thank you. Okay.
Okay, so we will just get started now. So good evening, everyone. My name is Elaine, and I have my teammates here with me today. They are Sumei, Abby, and Dan. And today we'll be doing a presentation about the differences between two factories, namely Boss Technology and Shenzhen Joyhuan Technology. Next slide, please. And Dr. New did the audits back in 2016. The audit focused on 3 areas. They are the company profile, business-related documents verification, and lastly, the air management system that has been able to address 23 audit areas at various sections in those 2 factories. Okay, so BOSS was formerly known as a CT Signage Technology when it was first established in 2009. BOSS currently has around 200 employees, and it produces digital photo frames, smart signage, tablet, the digital signage display and solutions. Boss outsources most of the product components to third parties. However, they do have 4 SMT machines in-house to develop the PCB boards. 90% of their productions are for export sales, and their major customers are Hama, Philips, and NIX. Whereas Joy Hong was established in 2011, and they currently have around 500 employees. Joy Hong also produces digital photo frames, and there are many other products such as advertising player, tablet PC, smartphone, action camera, and scooter. So apart from customize the mold by third party, Joy Hong purchases most of the mold materials and manufacture the product by themselves. All the productions are for export sales, and their major customers are Hama, Intensol, Telefunken, and Remix. Next, please. Okay, so both factories are a legal entity with registered business license. As I mentioned before, City Signage has changed their name to BOSS, and it was officially registered in 2016, and thereafter the business license was issued together with the export license. Whereas for Joy Hong, we noticed that the issue date of export license was earlier than its business license. We believe this is because Joy Hong exports all the productions since its first establishment in before, hence it is rather critical for Joy Hong to obtain the export license first. And finally, both factories have complied with the EMC standard, and the EMC certificate was issued by SGS and NTEC respectively. So before I pass on to Shumei, I just want to remind you that we have opened up the poll and for the rest of our presentation today. Over to Shumei, thank you.
So is everyone ready for the poll? So it's by looking at these pictures, which factory do you think that they have an appropriate environment and safe condition within the factory? And is anyone on the poll? All right. So yes, by comparing both factories, it is obvious that Joy Hong has a clean and tidy storage area as compared to Boss, because Boss store all the products at one place, unlike Joy Hong, they separated it by categories and in order, as you can see from the pictures. And one plus point for Joy Hong is that their staff wear anti-static band while working. This to prevent the buildup of static electricity near sensitive electronics, where static charge could damage electronics or cause safety issue. So next, this is another question that we would like to ask you all to see which factory do you think that the factory did identify the materials, parts, and products clearly, and if they are segregated with inspection status. So yes, both claim that they do not have a special inspection area, and from the photo, the materials are not segregated and placed. They all place the products at one place. Where in the video, they actually explain that they do not have a special inspection area that time, where they are expected in a few months. And while Joy Hong, they did segregate the materials clearly, and when the products are ready for shipment, they did really segregate the products by categories. For example, if the products are ready for shipment, like for domestic shipment, they will place all the products at one area, and others like by category. One is placed in by tablet and some placed by photo frame. So next, and this is another poll question, that which factory do define the inspection and test requirements by looking at the videos. Yeah, so I think it is quite obvious that Zhehong do have their SOP at most of their production checkpoint, and they did test requirements more detailed than BOSS, as BOSS claim that they define the inspection and test requirements, but they do not have any supporting documents that support their statements. So it's quite obvious that Zhehong did well in this part. So that's all from me. I will now pass it to AB.
Okay, the next one, we are looking into the IQC, IPQC, FQC process. BOSS, from the left-hand side on the BOSS has only IQC procedure flows. Dan, can you please play the video? Okay, they have, you can see the blue chart there. They have the IQC procedure flows to follow and have the test documented for each batch of incoming raw materials. But many of the testing machines, when you go along the video there, just seems like sitting there and not being utilized. And we do not see that they have the IPQC process in place, which is for preventing error during production. And as for the bottom video, FQC process, tests are being carried out, but however, we see that they are not standardized for all the products. Like the first 4-hour testing for the items firstly shown was not documented, but rather perhaps they only document it for well-known brand like Hama for Germany. So that's what I can notice. And for Joyhong, they have the in the video they have the IQC, they have the IPQC and FQC or QA process properly laid out in a flow chart and to follow strictly. They also have all these records documented as per stated in the audit report. And they utilize machines. You notice that they also utilize machines for all incoming materials testing, which will be shown in the video shortly. Okay, and their FQC is also properly documented for each item. The bottom video they show that they have a proper document. So the main thing here is whether they have the proper document to be documented. Next. Okay, for this about the process parameters, in BOSS factory, we noticed that one of the videos shows that the supervisor does not know this batch of items is for which customers because it's rather messy. Okay, all right. As for the and also in the BOSS, yeah, this slide. Okay, and also for BOSS, the production workers did not do any recording during their production procedures. The process parameters are not being properly documented, and they could not produce any document on that for monitoring and control. Whereas for Joyhong, the records are kept, and moreover, Joyhong utilized lots of computerized machines for process parameters. So for those in production, as well as for the incoming material tests, so records can be retrieved from the computerized machines. Next slide. Okay, next one is about the trained personnel of their operators and also QC personnel. For BOSS, during the factory visits, okay, we can see that all of their employees are not in proper standardized costume, okay, but there's only a few of the employees are there, and they do not seem to have any supervisors to answer the correct questions. As compared to Joyhong, they have the employees training records kept, and their employees also appear to be more professional in answering specific questions. Most important is that they have the specialized person to answer specific questions to their specific areas like marketing, testing personnel, and also their production supervisor. Okay, so next, pass it to
Right. Next, one of the questions was, does the factory have a method for reviewing customer complaints and are there records available? From whatever everyone else has explained so far, which one do you guys think has it? BOSS or Joyhong? We can answer it on the questionnaire. And I'm going to go to the next slide. It's Joyhong. If you look at BOSS's, they claim that they have 100% satisfactory customers. That means they have no complaints. But and their website is, it's got an error there. It's actually a field for customers to email them directly. So, and in case of Joyhong, they have a method for reviewing customer complaints, which is the pink board you can see, as well as on their website. It's more informative with their addresses and so on. The next is there a fire protection system etiquette in place and under good condition? Both of them have for fire protection systems, except for that, if you look at Boss's photo, you can see that the paper for checking the fire extinguishers is not up to date, whereas on the Joy Hong one, it's actually up to date up until the month where Professor Neil had visited. And what we have done so far, actually taken questions where both companies' answers differed. These are some of the other questions when it comes to auditing a company, auditing a supplier. And then last is the conclusion, where positives of BOS was that employees seemed more happy and helpful, but that's pretty much all BOS had in positives, if you think about it. Whereas Joy Hong, they had more standards in their manufacturing, testing, as well as checking up on incoming packages. The negatives of BOS was that they had a messy storage area like Shumei had showed, whereas for Joy Hong was a lack of enforcement of safety measures such as the wristband. And then so the surprises for BOS was that they manufacture their own circuit boards, whereas Joy Hong had particularly strict management system and SOPs. And so yeah, Joy Hong is the supplier that we chose. But after Dr. Neil's visit, we have found on the website that BOS actually has improved. Apart from the audit we had, audit report we had, they seem to have a much more cleaner or actually a better looking factory at the moment. And that's it. Thank you.
Questions, everyone?
Hello, good evening. I would like to just like ask, why would Hama I saw it both factories customer is actually Hama. Why would Hama actually buy from factory with two distinct different qualities?
You want to ask our opinion?
Yeah, I mean, like I was just like wondering, two different factories with two different qualities, but why do they have the same common buyer?
We're assuming it's because of the production capacity of the factories. Maybe one factory cannot supply them enough, so they have to ask for two more factories.
It's a good question.
Can I ask a question related to Agyar's question? Then why don't find like another factory that has kind of the same standards, right?
I mean, end of the day, as Dr. Neil had mentioned, it was a customer who had asked him to go and audit these factories. So it's going to be a time-consuming thing to audit a lot of factories. And BOS is actually it's actually it's a well-known factory as well. And hence why the audit was conducted as well, to see if they're still maintaining standards. If that answers your question.
Okay,
Actually,
I might be able to add another comment because through the document we only can see that the customer of both BOS and Joy Hong is Hama and Philips and all that, right? But we didn't see anything that related to which product is sold to Hama, which product is sold to Philips. So it could be different product, like Hama bought different types of product from Joy Hong and different type of product from BOS. One possibility. Another possibility is also, yeah. Okay, another possibility, it could be also like Hama, they want to have a backup, like, sometimes if they cannot source it due to certain conditions, if they cannot have it from Joy Hong, then they have another option, alternative. Okay, so that's the details that we do not know from the document.
maybe and show the slide of their customers at the beginning. Can you show that again, please?
Yeah, one second. Share screen. Quotes. Major customers.
The
This
major
one?
customers. Yeah, so the Hammer, Philips, Nix, obviously I think part of the answer to that question is whether Hammer sources the exact same product from both factories or if it's a different product. And remember, it makes sense for Hammer. We'll talk about, remember, Hammer, these brand names are larger buyers and it may be more relevant to what we talk about in weeks 9, 10, 11. Hammer has, they have more power. And when you have more power, then you may not deliberately source everything from one supplier. And I'm sure Hammer might be actually sourcing different products from both of these suppliers, or if it's the same one, then they're doing it for the purposes of diversifying their supply chain risk. But I get a sense it wouldn't be the same product, I think. If it's one or the other, it wouldn't be the same. But,
yeah, because I had a quick look on Hammer's website. They actually has a lot of different items, electronic items. So
right,
and as well as the both factories, they have they have only one or two similar product, but most of the rest are actually different products. So yeah, so I do agree with Daniel that they probably diversified their supply chain.
And Philips, that's interesting. Their major customer, Philips. Yeah, it's hard. Okay, I've got a question for you, team. What other questions in the audit report that surprised you that, remember we went, the audit report had lots and lots of questions in it that you haven't covered. So is there anything else?
We didn't cover it because mainly we picked out questions where both companies had different answers.
Okay.
But certainly there are improvements that both factory has to actually, there are things that they,
but did the question ask about ventilation?
If the dust free is considered part of.
Yes.
Is the dust.
Yeah.
About the windows. One of the factory have their windows open during the production, especially when they are dealing with the PCB board, but the others are dust free. And Joy Hong have their environment like a clean room. They have clean room to produce specific items, and it's enclosed in the clean room area. Compared with the Boss, they have the place which is like open windows open where dust can come in. Yeah, it's totally different. Right. And even for Joy Hong, before you enter the clean room area, you have to, they will call it sanitize your whole body or being decompressed or something like that before you can enter the room.
Right. Okay. So which one should we buy from?
Well, based on the analysis that we've done, obviously it's going to be Joy Hong, but I saw some interesting comments.
Well, sorry, it's a chat in the chat room. So which one should we buy from? Class, asking all of you. Come on, if you're going to be a buyer and you're buying picture frames, you're importing, does it matter? What's the problem with buying from Joy Hong?
Price.
The price?
Explain.
Okay, I think for Joy Hong, they have already, during the same time, they're already in their full force, like they have double the size of the, no, during that time when you did the audit, it was triple or 4 times the size of the employee in the production. That will be a huge lot of cost to incur for Joy Hong, okay? Whereas for Boss, they, even though during your visit it is like seems the environment is not so clean and the production workers are not so well trained, okay, the reject, probably the quality is not that good, and the reject could be more than Joy Hong. But they got more room to improve, and they got more. But I mean, if as an investor to invest in this factory, they have the more room to improve. So that's why until today they are being better, but their employee are still not as many as Joy Hong. Because it's at least double of them. And if, especially during this pandemic time now, I'm not very sure whether Joy Hong can still sustain, especially they are in China, okay, for the export. I mean, for a buyer like us, if we are looking at feasibility of sourcing and
Which would you buy
a
from?
long term, actually for me, I would buy from Boss, but I would not buy in a huge quantity. I would buy a smaller quantity to test it out and to develop a long-term relationship with the supplier. But I guess my team is different. They wanted to buy from Joy Hong.
Okay, all right. Everything
And
has a
another
price.
thing is,
Yes.
if you talk about, as I showed in the last slide, Boss has upgraded compared to the audit. So I guess Boss would have a little more, I mean, they could probably survive more. Because on the long term, I don't think Joy Hong has done any upgrades per se. Boss has improved their factory outlet.
Okay. So have you, all right. So as a group, did you look at the product? Did you look at the product on Amazon?
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't find it on Amazon. I found it on Alibaba, but only Boss, the CT signage was there on Alibaba.
Yeah,
but
if you're going to buy it, you're going to sell it on Amazon. So shouldn't you go to Amazon and find out, well, okay, if we're going to sell a digital photo frame on Amazon, there's our competition, right? It's very competitive, right? So what was the FOB offered by Boss?
Boss was
G7
around, I think one of the products during the video they had mentioned was 20 USD, if I'm right.
And what was Joy Hong?
Joy Hong was a little more expensive on, I think 26 or 28, if I'm right.
23.
23. Oh, okay.
All right. So, Cass, can I have a show of hands? Who's going to buy from Boss and who's going to buy from Joy Hong? Hands up for Boss and thumbs up for Joy Hong. Can everyone indicate now, please? Hands up for Boss. Thumbs up for Joy Hong. $3 difference. There's your market. There's your market for Amazon. So 20 or 23, and you order 2,000. So there's a $6,000 difference. We go from one factory or another. So does anyone else want to choose Boss? You want to change your mind? Who chose Joy Hong? Put your hand up if you chose Joy Hong. Now, please. It's one person, two person, 3, 4. Okay. And you still want, Sarah, you're still staying with Joy Hong, are you?
In terms of looking through the quality, I mean, to be realistic, I mean, if quantity is small, I will still go for Joy Hong, unless I'm on a larger quantity, or I will probably choose both sides. But I'm not gonna just focus on boss.
Is there anything else? Is there anything else you can do? Like, class, come on. Is there anything else you can do if it's $3 cheaper per unit? All right, there's your competition. Picture frames. It's probably something that your competition may be something like this. Wow, you know, 368.99 picture frame. What is that? That's less 80, 90 US dollars. Is that right? And here's another picture frame. It's only 50 US dollars. Okay. And you're already paying 23 US dollars. How are you going to make money? Come on. I want you to think. You got to think. You got totally, you don't buy unless you're going to make a profit. Am I right? Yeah. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, you're a business, you're sourcing, you manage your supply chain, you need to make money. Okay, so there's your competition, that's where you're going to sell it. So maybe you don't have a choice and you have to go for Boss and not Joy Hong. If you didn't have a choice, you got to save that $3 US. What could you do to assure yourself that Boss will be okay?
I remember you have mentioned it the week before last week. They can, for that price, for the savings of that $3 of US dollar, for the buck price, they can pay additional to get probably more better QC passed and better quality. I mean, third party to certify them as a better quality product, but it won't be also as high as the price that's sold by Joy Hong. So what customer mindset is probably on quality. So they can sell by, I mean, once they sell it by the quality, they have the quality, they have the third party certified on their quality, and after they sell it, they will gain customer feedback. It's a process of get the item to be qualified by a third party to be a QC.
Yeah, so what you, okay, just, what you're just saying is that you just spend more money on QC. Am I right? Yes or no?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, let's stay focused on that. All right. So anyone else agree with that? Yes or no? Who's willing to spend money on?
I think that will work.
Put your hand up if you're going to spend money on QC, or you still want to stay with Joy Hong. Thumbs up for spending money on QC. Come on, everyone. Or hands up for you're still with Joy Hong. Hands means you're still with Joy Hong. Emma, I don't see your response. Ahmad, where's your response? Celine, Ashley? Have they changed your mind yet? You could spend, as $3 US difference. How much do I say it costs to have QC done per day? How much? How much, ladies and gentlemen? What did I say earlier? Come on, quick. How much is a day's worth of QC? Have a look in the PowerPoint slides. You downloaded them. $300 US, yes, for one day. So what if you want to do, that will give you the basic AQL level standard. But what if that's for Joy Hong, maybe you don't need it with Joy Hong, but maybe with Boss, you pay for 3 days QC. So that costs you $900. And you're ordering 2,000 units, so that's only going to cost you 35 cents per unit. Am I right? 50 cents a unit less. So now it's $20.50, not $23. You saved $2.50. And now you doubled your QC. All right, so let's have a look. There's, what have we got here? We've got the two comparisons. Boss is at top, Joy Hong at the bottom. This is Boss CT signage. And then that's Joy Hong. There's the website comparison for Boss. and there's Joy Hong there. And of course, so in some ways they're both good, but it's not until you saw the factory audit that they are different. And you've already seen those videos. But this is what happened with my client. He ended up going with Joy Hong, and they ended up putting the price up from, I think it was 23. I don't know why it says 23 there, because on the first order, it was 23. On the second order, it was 26. And in the third order, it was a different model that went up to 28. And so then the buyer came back to me and asked me, what do I do? And I just told him, you know, go back to boss and just double or triple up on the QC inspection. Right? So there's different strategies that you can employ to give you assurance that your product is okay as it's delivered. Obviously, boss has done something right in order to have a good client, even though they didn't look very good on the audit. Okay, there's a lot of room for improvement there. But if you're a small buyer, you're a small potato, then that is your opportunity to be able to bargain with someone like that, right? You can't bargain with Joy Hong because this is what happens here. Okay, what I want to do now, well done group on that. What I want to do now is take you through another factory audit, and you have access to this in Moodle. And let me just, this was a Bluetooth wireless earphones. And it's another factor I want to bring your attention to. Remember, tonight we're doing factory audits and QC. So I'll take you through this audit, then we have a break and we come back, and then we're going to do some interactions. We're going to do some interactive games, okay? Sound like a plan, yes or no? I can't hear you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hello,
Yes.
Is everyone still awake?
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. All right, thank you. All right, so first of all, here's our product. And whenever if I'm going to do a presentation on a factory, it's better that we start off showing a product. Make the present. I need to give you a focus. What are we doing? What are we buying? You know, when you're sourcing something for a supply chain, you always start with the market. You don't start with the factory. Nicole, Joey, you start with the market. You don't start with the factory. Okay, you should know that. Many of you are doing international marketing. Okay, you start with the market. If you don't have a market, why would you ever start sourcing something anyway? All right, you must know that you feel as though you can sell something and make a profit. All right, that's step one. Then you go to the factory. All right, after that. All right, so you don't go to the factory hoping that you can sell something. All right, so there's a screenshot of earbuds. So you got very cheap ones from $29.90 and $17.50. They're very, very cheap. 62, and some low-end ones, $13.50. Wow, they're some of them are so cheap. And you've got to think, wow, if we're going to go to a factory, what FOB price would you be willing to pay? Like, if this is at the low end, so this one might be a better one, but of course, there's a brand name there. It's a better design, so they're able to charge $62.50. Are you with me here? Okay, so let's have a look at Amazon. And some of these are higher end, a little bit better design. You can see that the battery design is different. This one is different from this one, different from this one, different from this, different. Can you see how it's not just that?
Dr. Neil, are you sharing your screen, or are you showing us
Dr.
something?
Neil, I think your screen is not being shared.
Okay, right. Oh, suddenly we've woken up. Okay, good. We're awake. Okay, let me just share that. All right, can you see now? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, so look at all of that.
Yeah.
Earbuds. And so what we see here are that's the low end of the market, and very, very cheap. Like you can get some for $16.90 or $9.90 or we start to get to a higher end, 62.50. But here you can see some of these look like they're a copy of some more famous brand earphones, right? Why would you buy these? Well, maybe you don't know if you like them or not before you buy the expensive ones. So maybe you buy the cheap ones, or you like them, then you upgrade. That's my thinking. That's how I would do it. Because if you go to the more expensive ones, well, look at these. So now, what's the difference between this group and this group? Quick. What's the difference between these and these, apart from the price? What's the difference? Pardon?
One is wireless, one is wired.
Well, no, these are all wireless. Most of these
They're
are
all
wireless.
I guess the second one is displayed better, and
what else? Come on, what else is different?
Charging. Oh, it's the same.
Quality.
Yeah, well,
looks more presentable.
The
it looks
design
like,
looks more original.
yeah, these look like they're all, apart from the Xiaomi expensive one and this one here, but the cheap ones, there doesn't seem to be any specific design. They're all copying. Same. You're with me here. But when you go here, they're all different. See the casing, earphones casing, they're all different. They've been tweaked. They've got their own little design. So when you have your own little design, then you can sell for more. Like this one, $189 US. Like this one's 750 ringgit. How many of you would pay that? Anyone? Come on.
Probably not.
Someone nodding their head. All right. So first of all, okay, this is global supply chain management. Now I'm talking marketing here. I'm just, first of all, if I'm going to show you some factories, you need to understand what the end market is like, okay, before we go into the factory, all right? So, you know, there's the low end, there's the high end. Low end, $10 US. Like, you wouldn't buy from the factory for more than $10 US FOB. If you want to compete in here, you'll be paying, and you want to sell it for 30 or 40 US minimum. And even that, you'll be overpriced. You'll be over this price. You'll be over this price here. Okay. But once you start to pay 20 US FOB, now you're going to be wanting to sell for 70, 80, 90 US on the market. You with me here, class? Remember, it's about a 3 to 4 times margin. You've got to, whatever the FOB price is, you need to be able to sell your product for 3 to 4 times the FOB price. Otherwise, you can't be in business. Okay, you need to have a sense of that 3 to 4 times. Okay, so now let's have a look at some factories. There's two. I was asked to do an audit of 2 Bluetooth earphone factories. Not picture frame, this is Bluetooth earphones. So Augicium and GEP. And this is what the type of product I looked at for Augicium. This is the type of product I looked at for GEP technology. Okay. And you notice that you could find similar products around 80, 100 US dollars. You see that? Okay, divided by 4, there's 25 US dollar FOB. Alivia, what are you saying? Hello? Are you talking?
Sorry, sir.
Okay. All right, so we've got Augicium and GEP. So now that's what I see when the product that they show me, the buyer was interested in buying. Okay, very similar to this product here, you can see. All right, already being sold on Amazon. Okay, what about GEP technology? GEP had this idea where you put it into this kind of thing that looks like a pen, and then you can slide it back together, and then that charges up the earphones. So here is Augicium, and this is what they quoted me on the day I went there. And the price, if you buy more than 5K, it's going to cost you 15, 20 FOB. If you buy more than 25, it's going to be 13 FOB. Okay. This brand, which is more of what we originally looked for, it was 5K, $21.50. If you buy 25K, it's $19. So if you buy higher volume, then you can save $2.50 per unit from 5K to 25K. If you buy 5K, that means that your investment of 100,000 US dollars. Put your hand up if you have that money. Who has that money? Any of you? Hello? Put your hand up if you don't have that money. One person. Sarah, are you willing to invest this money? Yes or no?
No.
No. Emma, what about you? Quick.
I think it depends on their after-sales service ability.
Maybe. All right. Okay. Sharon, what about you? Sharon?
Yeah.
Are you listening to me?
Yeah.
Questions being asked. What's your answer?
I don't think so. I don't want to spend my money in here.
You hesitated. That means you may have wanted to. Are you hesitating or are you definite?
Definite.
Pardon?
Hello?
Are you hesitating or are you definite? Don't want to?
Definite.
Okay, then you need to not delay in answering. You say yes or no, all right? If you hesitate, then that means you're thinking about it. That means you may or may not, you're not sure, right? All right, so be careful with your response because I might commit you to buy this product, huh? All right. Shamia, what about you? Are you in or out? Samia, are you in?
Me, sir?
Yes. Are you in or out? Are you buying this? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes. What?
Yes.
100,000 US dollar investment in here? Would you?
Yes.
Why would you do that? Why do you say yes?
I don't know because I don't know. I just don't know how to answer that. So I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Nicole, what about you, Nicole? Quick. Got to wake you up. I have to, you know, come on. This is real stuff here, right? If you mess up with what you buy and what you order and you can't sell it, you lose big money. Am I right? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Hello? Right, everyone, come on, class. Come on, there's no theory here. It's either
more research is needed. I guess we need to do the research.
Good. Okay, now we want to hear from you. There's no theory here. You either buy or you don't buy, and you need more information. What information do you need to get? Well, here's some more information. Here's GP technology. This is the product they're talking about. Okay, 0.5 watt in each year. Okay, this is what they're charging. 1K MOQ, 25 US dollars per unit. So that means a minimum investment, 25,000. Well, that's better than 100,000, but you only get 1,000. You don't get 5,000 for 100,000. You with me here? 30% TT before production, 70% balance before shipment. You see the details they've got here. All right, what about Grisham versus GEP? Here are the different factories that have been established, one for 5 years and one for 20 years. Operating space, one smaller than the other. Export percentage, and there's some other details. Employees, one is 4, 5, 6 times larger than the other. Production capacity, 25 days. And there are other major customers, Sony, iRiver, Metro, JVC, RS. So do you think you could buy from both of these, yes or no? Hands up if you think both of them are selectable. All right, let's go to the next stage. All right, here's the certificates from both Augitium and GP. More certificates from both. The red is Augitium, the blue is GP. So let's go and visit the two factories. Okay, and so here's both of them. So we're Augitium at the top, GP at the bottom. And the days when I visited them, right, this is an official audit that I did for a buyer that paid me to do this. And they weren't making the products. They weren't making the earphones the days I visited both of them. So I was a bit disappointed with that. But we did go through everything and did a full factory audit. At the bottom, we're looking at the quality testing area. So they've got the burn-in room at the bottom here. At the top was more of the storage and some of the other testing area. Obviously, the one at the top is larger than the one at the bottom, and they've got some notes about the burn-in area here at the bottom, and there's some earphones that they are burning in as we are there. Obviously, this is like the one at the top. You can see they have a full QC flowchart here, which is just like the factory you showed last week. And so I thought that was really, really nice here. All right. There's some of the testing area, and I want to see them working, and they're actually doing the working. I like the separation too. Both of them were good. So why did I think that they were both good? If you go to the next stage, this is where I started testing the product for myself. I'm going to share
然后我们还有一个我们自己专利的一个设计就是怎么样的？这个耳挂哦，耳挂。
Another accessory component.
Yeah.
So I think you're muted.
You're muted, sir.
Good. I'm glad. I'm just testing if you're awake. All right. Okay, good. One thing that you haven't been aware of, I'll make you aware of. Yes, we can compare factory A and factory B. We can check all the boxes. But one thing that you haven't talked about, and that is what? What do you see here? Who is this person here? Who is this guy here? Have a guess. Come on.
The owner of it?
Is the owner. The owner. No, not the manager. He's the owner. Okay. None of you have met the owner in your factories you're compared. And none of you have mentioned it. But I tell you that this is probably the most important signal for a factory. Who is the owner? Okay. Is the owner like Steve Jobs, that is interested in making the best product in the world, interested in making the product better and better and better every year after year after year? Or is the owner, they just want to make money, then they go IPO on the stock market, they get their money and they want to buy property? You know, different types of owners. Okay. If you get an owner like Steve Jobs, do you think is that a big positive or a negative? Yes or no?
Positive.
It's a positive. So listen, I want you to listen to him. I want you to tell me if you think he's like Steve Jobs. Yes. Oh, yeah, it's a whole done it.
然后这个耳挂呢，使用非常简单，因为这个是很韧性很高的材料做的，它所以卡对，所以内力都可以卡得住，都可以固定它， 随意任何角度都可以安装它，安装非常简单。然后我们在用的时候可以。这样也可以安装，所以使用起来非常方便。然后这个还有一个很特别的在哪里呢？这个是可以调整入耳的深浅度的。
Okay, that's another
adjust
the depth which is located in your ear.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's flexible.
Yes, just try this for myself. So, all right, so you're going to put that in there, and then that will go in here. Okay, good. All right, and so now they're charging, and then you can, like that. Okay, so just. All right. Then we pull it out. So now, that will charge here and here. So this will work for 8 charges. Because you've got about a. You've got a 45 milliamp hour battery in here. There you go. All right. So just a long story short, that owner, the owner at the bottom, I've been to. It's hard to pull it out. Put 50 factories. I've interviewed thousands of suppliers. This owner came across as being like Steve Jobs. He was just so in love with his own product, and he spent nearly an hour with us just talking about the product. Like, I've never seen an owner like that before. XKL Technology, who put your hand up if you, who was the group that did XKL Technology? Haley, your group, Nicole? Yeah, I met that owner too. And I asked him, why don't you do receive materials inspection? He said to me, why would I waste time on that? The FOB price on these Bluetooth speakers are only $4 US. Like, that's his response. He's not interested in making the best product. Okay. This guy here is interested in making the best product. And I tried it out. That earphone, I went 10 meters away from my smartphone and it still had the signal. And the one at the top, I go more than 5 meters away and the signal went away. And there was a big difference in the signal. Maybe the signal in the bottom one is too very strong, maybe give you cancer, I don't know. But I just want to say that I've never seen someone like this owner before. Can work too. Yes. And then that one?
This product is already on the market.
Right. He was just so proud of the product. So here's the thing, all right? We're in week 6 and we've talked about lots of things about buying from suppliers, but one thing you learned tonight, and we'll have a short break, is who is the owner? Right, that is one factor you need to consider, and that is one factor that no presenting group has talked about yet. Okay, maybe because the video didn't mention it, that's fine, but that's still a factor. Okay, one factory separates, the other one doesn't. One has dust free, one doesn't. What about the owner? Are the owners different? That can make all the difference. Okay. All right. So even the day that I had to do a full audit. So if you go into your Moodle, you will see under this week the earbuds audit report. See that? Can you see that? Yes or no? All right. Yes. And yes. That's in the audit report there. So I did the audits on both of those factories there, and I was so impressed with the owner. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't stop talking about it to the client of mine. I said, look, and in the end, the cost, the FOB price, now you get to vote, okay? So we'll do the hands up for the top one. No, the thumb up for the top one. See my thumb here, and the hands for the bottom one. The one at the top, the FOB price is less than $20 US. The one at the bottom is going to cost you 2150.22. Let me just double check here. Make sure that we are. All right, there you go, 2150 FOB price for the one at the top. And this one here is the one that we were prototyping there, was 25 for 1K. All right, so $350 US more. Okay, so thumbs up for this one. I want everyone to vote now. Thumbs up for this one, that you'll buy 5K of this one, and hands up for this one, you buy 5K of this one. Maybe you can get 50 cents cheaper, but there's, in the end, that's $3 US difference. Okay, so can I have show of thumbs or show of hands? Decision. We've got hands going up here. Any thumbs? Some are hesitating. Saline, you're hesitating. Samala, you're hesitating. Ahmad, hesitating here. These are decisions you have to make. You cannot, there's no theory here. You make a decision. I gave you the information. All right, I would, yeah, I was excited to know that, yeah, this was more expensive, this one here. The one that I see a lot of you put your hands up for this one. And, you know, $3 US more expensive. But I think the big difference, and what excited me, was the owner. So, you know, at the end of the day, you've got a factory visit checklist you need to think about, and all of you did that. But I want you, we're going to have a break now. And so far, we've actually compared with factory A and factory B. We haven't talked about the product audit. We haven't talked about the QC audit. Am I right? Agyar, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right. So we talked about comparing factories. A factory audit is a factory audit. It's not a product QC audit. It's just, is the factory capable of making the product that you want to get made? And just in the last 10 minutes, I just highlighted to you that if you can meet the owner, that can tell everything about the factory. All right. If the owner cares about the product to make the best in the world, then maybe it's worth paying a few extra dollars per unit for. And maybe that's something that you can put a brand on and tweak and work with the owner in that way. Otherwise, you may be just buying a commodity and you may not have a chance to tweak because that factory may not be able to do that in the future. All right, let's have a break for 7 minutes. When we come back, we're going to talk about QC audit, and we're going to teach you how to do a QC audit, a real life QC audit. We're going to go through some exercises, and you have to decide whether a product passes or fail the QC audit. Are you ready for that? Are you ready?
Yes.
Not yet.
Yes.
Okay, have a break, come back. I'll see you in 7 minutes. Okay, that will be 9:26. See you soon. Okay, we're on again, and we're going to start recording. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, you all got, so as I said, Mike Bellamy's got a video that talks about quality control. Have a listen to that. It's always good to have a different voice from listening to me all the time. But just want to remind you that this is not just about China. This is the inspections that are done on various products from all around the world. And you can see we're talking about here quality inspections. We're not talking about factory audits. Remember, so far we've been focusing on the factory, the audits, but we haven't looked at, well, what about product quality inspections? After you've chosen a factory, now you need to do the inspection. And notice that garments are sourced from all around the world, not just China and India, but then you got Bangladesh, Mexico and Vietnam and Pakistan. And you can see that garments, you know, is spread across around the world. You know, there are glassware, food and beverages, and you can see footwear is very big in Brazil, whereas furniture is very big in Philippines, or audio and video is very big in Thailand. Of course, China has all these products as well, but China still has a large percentage garments because China, next to India, they have the largest sources of cotton in the world. Okay. So who is Kima? Kima is Asia Inspection. It's a new brand. They're one of the largest third-party inspectors in the world. Okay, what is very important, and Mike makes in his QC video, is you've got to be very careful about exactly what you tell the factory what you want to make. You don't just say, I want fire engine red, because what is the color of a fire engine may be different in which country you are in. So fire engine red in one country is different from a fire engine red in another country, as you can see. So you cannot just say to the customer, to the factory, oh, just give me top quality. You need to be very, very specific. So what I tell buyers is that you need to work with the third-party inspector. So you understand. If you don't understand, you and the inspector understand, you're on the same page exactly what are the actual QC requirements of the product that you are getting inspected. And so quality control is very important when you talk about quality assurance or third-party QC. What we're going to look at now is third-party QC and focusing on the actual audit. That's the well, I guess we're focusing on the inspection and audit, but we're actually focusing on the product and not the factory. Okay, we're focusing on the product audit now and not the factory audit. And when you actually order in something factory, you have a golden sample, which is the actual first sample that the factory agrees to make more of for you. That is, you pay the factory to send you a sample, and you say, okay, here's the money, make 1,000 of these or make 2,000 of these. But you keep that first sample, and that's the golden sample that you want to compare the factory's production against if something goes wrong. ISO, that's associated with the factory audit and the actual standard of the process that the factory goes through in making your product. Okay, that is nothing to do directly with the product that you are ordering. And then another thing you need to be aware of is minor, major, and critical defects. And we're going to go to that now. And this is the big thing I want you to take home tonight, is that the acceptance quality limit. And this we're going to learn, that represents the maximum number of defective units beyond which a batch is rejected. There's a limit for minor rejects, and there's a limit for major rejects. And this is an example across countries where the acceptance quality limit is higher for some countries than other countries, and based on certain product like garments. And this is based on CUMA's own testing inspection across these different countries. And that may be different if you go to another third-party inspector, but this is just CUMA, which is Asia Inspection. Okay, this is what you need to know. What is AQL? Well, no, step one, there is a lot size. So number one, you assume your lot size is comprised between 2,000 and 10,000 pieces. Then you go down table one and you look for 3,000 to 10,000. And then the inspection level. Most inspection levels are at level 2. So therefore the code letter becomes L. Then you take L and you go across to table 2. And you'll see that the inspector will have to draw 200 pieces from your sample, 200 pieces from your production, and then they're going to have to give you a rating of how many products pass inspection for the 2.5% from major defects, 4% from minor. And so what would that be? You take the L and you go across to 2.5. That means if there are 11 defects that are major and 14 defects are minor, then you pass, the report passes. But if there is 11 major defects or 15 minor, then the report fails. Okay? Let me repeat. Step 1. What is the total order? Okay? Is it 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000? Is it 10,000? All right. Step 2. Inspection level is level 2. For most cases it is, but check that. But then you find out what the code letter is. Then you go to the second table, and then it tells you how many pieces the quality inspector must draw. And then that will tell you for major, which is 2.5%, minor 4%, that will tell you what the minimum is allowable before you reject the product. Okay, are you ready? That's what you have to do. And so step 1, so you've got the PowerPoint side, so you need the tables. Step 1 is you need to download the inspection report done for exercise 1. And you need to tell me whether that report, whether you should pass or fail that product that has been inspected. Are you clear what you have to do? Here are the questions. What is the AQL level? What is the sample size? What are the AQL limits for major and minor? What is the result, major and minor? And what's your decision? You have, I'll give you 8 minutes for exercise 1. Do you know what to do? Yes or no? You need to download the report from Moodle. Go to Moodle now, download it if you haven't. Are you ready to go into groups? And we'll see which group is winning now. Week 6, we're picking up the inspection report for week 6C. Can you open that? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yep. Yes.
Yes, okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, so we're going to put you in groups now, and do you know what you have to do? You have to answer these questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes. What?
Regarding the slide before this one with the table. So
Yes.
can I find that?
It's in your PowerPoint slides. You download your PowerPoint slides.
Yeah, I have them, but I don't know which one.
Well, you pay attention. You see it's in the PowerPoint slide. It's very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you need to download the material before you come to class. Am I right? Okay. All right. So there's the PowerPoint slides here. Verification factory audit. So if you go into the slides here, you'll find that table. Has everyone got that? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's, you've got that. I've told you this process you go through. Now you need to open up this report. This is the furniture sample report. You need to open that up and you'll see something like this. Now you need to go through it and you need to go through those steps, and you'll have to go through the report to count up how many major and how many minor defects there are. And then you report back to tell me whether you reject or pass the QC inspection. Is everyone clear on what you have to do?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the first group to come back to give me a result, we will record. Okay. So you got, I'll give you 8 minutes, but if you come back with the result before then we'll consider your group to be the champion. Okay. So let me put you into groups. Breakout rooms. We're going to do this twice, so you'll learn in the process. There's 30 participants. So we have 6 rooms, 5 participants per room. What do you think? Or would you like smaller number? Are you happy with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's do create rooms. I'll give you 8 minutes and 9 minutes, but if you come back with an answer before then, but you've got to go through those questions and answer all the questions, you can do it. I'll give you 9 minutes. Okay, let's go. Open all rooms. Good luck. I'll screenshot the PowerPoint slides again. Jason, are you okay? Jason, are you good? Hi, Ginny, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, what I'm going to do is stop sharing. Oh, okay, so most of you are back now. All right, coming back. Okay, so we're all back again. All right, so Sarah, your team is number?
1.
Team number 1, huh? All right, let me just share the screen, and I'm sharing this one. Share. Okay, good. All right, so the big question is, first of all, what is the AQL level?
2.
2? Okay, how do you know it's 2?
It's in page 6.
Yeah, well, it's actually here. Level 2 is here, right? See that? Did you all see that, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Yes.
All right, okay, all right. Okay, Next question, what is the sample size? The sample size should be a function of the order quantity, right?
Yeah.
So how much is the order quantity?
128.
128. So if you go to, what's the sample size?
91 to 150.
Well, how did you get that?
Table 1. Table 1.
Table 1, 128. And what is the or inspection level 2? So therefore it's F for Fred. And so F for Fred means the sample size is how much?
20.
20. Okay, so what is the limits for the 2.5 and 4%?
For 2.5% is 1.
Is 1.
Yep, 1. And 4% is 2, right? Okay, so that answers that question. So what is the result?
The result was 2 and 7.
The result is what?
Major is 2, for minor is 7.
Yeah.
Right, so accept or reject?
Reject.
Hands up if you reject. Okay, that's right. So, and so that's exactly what the report says, and you figured it out, you see. So failed, and then it goes back to the client. The client paid $299 for this report and failed, and that's it. All right, so we're going to do one more. Are you ready for the next one? And so let's see who can go fast now. Here we have another inspection report. The order quantity is 54,000 pieces. All right? 54,000 cups. Yes, 54,000. Okay, so we'll go into the groups again and we do the same thing again. Are you ready?
Yeah.
And have you downloaded this report?
Yes.
Okay, so you know the steps to follow, and good luck. So breakout rooms, we're going to create open all rooms again. We'll open them back again, same ones. Okay, off you go. And you've got 5 minutes this time. You go very fast. You know what to do. You should be able to go faster. Nafis. Recording. So what we had to do now, let's just, 17, 16. Okay, you guys are great, very fast this time. Okay, and that finishes up what we're doing tonight. So this is a good exercise. Here they all come. They're all back. All right. Congratulations to Elaine, Aga, Joey, for being the first to come back. So well done, guys. And I think Yi Chung, I think you came back early too. So well done. So it's really, really good. Okay, so what have we got the answer here? What's our AQL level?
2. 2.
No.
AQL level's 2, and that's normally the case unless the buyer requires a more higher level, right? So what's the sample size for 54,000 units?
500.
500, and basically 500 is the maximum that in that table. It doesn't go higher than that. So if it's 500, what's the minimum and max? So if we go to 500, so now we're allowing 14. Am I sharing? Yeah. We're allowing 21 for 2.5, and we're allowing 21 for 4%. Okay. So you're allowed 21 minor defects and 21 major defects. All right. So the question is, how many major defects did you find, Elaine?
50, 51 or 54. 54, 51, and minor is 51.
Okay. Aga, what did you find? Your group?
Minor is 51, and then the major one is 53.
53.
53 or 51?
54, 54, 54.
Wait a minute. Are you in Elaine's group?
Yeah, okay. Same group.
Same group.
Emma, what did you get? Nicole, what did you get?
4 major and 51 minor.
Okay, with 51 minor and 54 major. Okay, so here's the actual report here. And so the question is, are we accepting or rejecting? Hello?
Rejecting.
Reject. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So, and so that there's the actual report here, and they ended up rejecting it, failed, and that's the details for why it was failed. Okay, all right. So let's just wrap up now. It's top of the hour. So I just want to, the big takeaway tonight is, of course, the factory audit. We just sharing a bit on the factory audit, extension of the firm comparisons, which we did last week. But more importantly, what I introduced you to tonight was the importance of, let me just check, we're recording, yep, the importance of the QC audit. And the big thing that drives the QC audit is the acceptable quality level. And you need to go table 1 and table 2 to find out, well, what is the standard? The acceptable quality level depends on the initial order size. And also it depends on the inspection level. Is it 1, 2, or 3? For most inspections I have witnessed and have worked with inspection companies, they normally inspect at a level number 2. Okay. But if you feel you want, as a buyer, you want more sensitively levels done, then you can ask for a level 3 inspection, which puts a tighter constraint on the number of minor defects and major defects that are allowed to be found before you reject the order. Okay, so the multiple choice questions that you'll be doing in week 8 as part of the quiz, I think there's 3 or 4 questions on AQL, so make sure that you are aware of that and have that table handy for when you do that multiple choice question. Okay, so you can print out this slide for that purpose. Okay, it doesn't mean you print out all the other slides. All right, so that finishes QC. There's a little bit more detail here, but the main thing I want you to take away is what is AQL. and how is it calculated, and what does it mean for a quality report. And what we did tonight is I exposed you to 2 quality reports, one on teacups, one on furniture. And as you can see, they're a little bit different from a factory inspection, because the factory report is more about whether the factory can make the product or not, and social environmental. So I think that actually wraps up the third, let me just think, that wraps up what we call the 3-circle control framework in looking at measurement and verification. There's much more that we could go into, but I think that's the most important thing tonight. So that summarizes last 3 weeks, where we looked at the relationship with the supplier with negotiation, understanding the supplier's challenges. Last week was more, you know, what things do you have to do to check to make sure that you don't send money to a dodgy account or to a scam, because that is actually happening. We know that. And then tonight was more, okay, once you have narrowed down your suppliers to 2 factories, then you do the factory audit, but then you've got to do the product audit. And the big thing that drives the product audit is the AQL standard. And you've got the AQL standard tables tonight. Next week, we will take another angle and looking at IP protection, but we're looking at supply chain management from the viewpoint of the startup. And so the 2 groups presenting next week are going to show you how startups can show the underbelly of the risk of managing a supply chain. And it will give you, what we're going to look at next week is show you and expose to you the real risk of managing a supply chain, because startups of all companies have limited resources and they don't know everything, and they always run into problems. And that's something that we can talk about, report on through the interviews I did with startups. But when you go and if you go talk to HTC, you go talk to Apple, they're not going to tell you their problems. And if there's a problem that occurred, they're not going to tell the world that there's a problem. It's very hard to find out about problems in supply chain management when you talk to big companies. Of course, I have, and I'll tell you about that in week 9 and 10. But next week, we show you the problems from a startup, because when a problems occur with a startup, invariably the startup will fail. And so the 2 groups presenting next week are going to share with you stories of 12 startups in different processes, different products that I've interviewed, and how they have succeeded or failed and why. And they will give you more insights into the importance of IP protection and other elements of the supply chain. So that finishes tonight. Can you do the usual? And please go to our feedback section, where you've given, I'm asking for your feedback again, and I've shared the feedback. And if you can just fill in the big idea that you got tonight, plus questions you have on your mind, and the teacher has enhanced my thinking ability in which area. Very, very important. I have your feedback. And remember, the last next week, I can produce a video for the last 2 weeks of questions that you have on your mind. The last video I created on YouTube has got over 2,000 views. So there's certainly value coming out from, if it's not from our class, it's coming from other people that are watching those YouTubes. So appreciate your feedback if you've got some for tonight, or any questions that you have now. Thank you. Questions?
Sorry, so is it question for the feedback or like just free question?
Oh, 2 things, because you're all so good at multitasking. fill in the feedback form. Plus, if you want to ask me any questions about anything, you can ask me anything.
I would like to ask about the golden sample.
Yes.
Regarding the golden sample and production sample.
Yes.
I think that can you actually use golden sample as some sort of legal assurance? Like, can we actually like bind the quality of the golden sample to the supplier? Like, okay, since you are showing me the sample, I want this kind of quality for my product.
Correct. Yes, that gold. If things go really, really bad, like the supplier sends you enough to pass the inspection, so it goes into your country, and there may be something that wasn't picked up in inspection. Well, you can go back to the golden sample and talk to the supplier and say, well, look, you know, this is still, you've got to be very careful, because if you, the inspector is likely to give you the statistics of minor defects or major defects, and really it's in comparison to the golden sample, right? Now, maybe you say, okay, there's some major and minor defects, and you pull the trigger. Why? Because it's below the statistical level of reject, right? But in the end, it turns out that it becomes a problem at the end. Then you may go back to the supplier, Mr. Supplier, look, you know, your final shipment ended up having a greater percentage of these defects than what the inspector picked up. Here's the golden sample. Now you can go into negotiation with the supplier and say, all right, so you can use that golden sample to go back and negotiate and say, well, here's the golden sample, here's what you promised. The inspector, yeah, through the sample, you know, it was 50-50, I pulled the trigger, but in the end, it turned out to be more than 50-50 in terms of major and minor defects. You go back to the supplier. So the golden sample helps your negotiation. And ultimately, it may help with a claim with the supplier. Look, Mr. Supplier, you know, you ended up sending me more bad products than that don't meet the golden sample. I'm going to order from you again. Can you actually, there's 100 more than what should have been a minor defect or a major defect. Can you add 100 to the next order? You've got to get into negotiation where often suppliers want you to say, oh, will you give me another order? I'll make it up to you. Or you then can take them to court and say, well, the supplier failed to do what they did. Here's the golden sample. I've checked all the reasons why they didn't deliver as they should. So you use the golden sample for negotiations. Ultimately, you use it for a court case, but remember, courts cost you money. Ultimately, you need a golden sample for that, but you wouldn't want to waste time going to court over it. Use it for more negotiations. But that's a good question. Very good question. And actually, Mike Bellamy talks about that in the video too, about the golden sample, how you can use it. So that's good. Did you enjoy the exercise tonight with the actual QC reports?
Yeah.
Yes. It kind of wakes up some.
Yeah, you know, yeah. Okay, I've got 6, 7, 8 of you have responded. If the rest of you can, you know, you don't have to fill in every part, but if you can, got a question on your mind or the big idea or an area where I helped you, then that's all good. Okay. And next week, we've got 2 groups presenting, plus I want to start to have conversations with all of you about your major project. What's very, very critical is you start to have a conversation within your group about what your major project is going to be on. Because once we get to the 2-week break, I think I would prefer to have a meeting with every group during the 2-week semester break. Does that sound like a plan? I want to do it before we get into the quiz week, which is the week after. Okay, so during the semester, if I can meet with every group just for half an hour, 45 minutes, and talk about your major project, I think that's going to be very, very important. What do you think? Okay, again, it's 10:12, so we're 12 minutes after 10. I think it's no time to wrap up. Any final other questions? And there's only 10 of you that you have replied. Can I ask the other 10 to indicate areas that helped you or didn't help you, or questions? Happy to help. Remember, this is the last week. We're talking about the 3-circle control framework, and next week IP. The week after the 2-week break. Oh, by the way, I will be in quarantine I'm coming back to Malaysia. Yippee, yay. Coming back on October 4th, okay?
Yay.
So I will be in one of the 5-star hotels or 3-star hotels for 2 weeks. Looking forward to it, yeah.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah. Would it be different if, let's say, as a buyer, if just now we seen how you selected the factory for the Bluetooth. One is that one is on a high-end market. Would it be different if, let's say, sourcing for a high-end market as compared to sourcing for a low-end market? Would the strategy be different?
Yes, I think the main area of difference is once you go into high-end, those studying international marketing will know this. You're really focusing on your brand, okay? In order to compete at the high end, you're competing on your brand and consumer trust that you have a promise behind your brand and you have a particular product that's different from other products, right? So assuming that, then when it comes to QC, then you need to be much more careful to make sure that that promise to your customer, that's marketing, right, is fully assured by the QC. But if you're going at the low end, like I showed the earphones for what, 1990 ringgit for a pair of earphones, right? Very low end, then it's really not a brand. You're not positioning yourself to differentiate from other products. You're just hoping that customers find you before they find your competition, right? So it's more volume, right? And then the QC, it just becomes statistics. Okay. And then your whole management just becomes a statistical exercise. Why? Because did I tell you one client approached me about questioning about doing a QC audit? Do you know how many of these earphones he was ordering? How much was in the batch?
The high-end one?
No, I think they were medium, but he was ordering 70,000. 70,000 earphones, all right? Mm-hmm. And I think the earphones he was ordering, the FOB price was between $10 and $15 each. Wow, I'm just thinking, wow. That's a huge investment, right?
Yeah. 10 and between 10 and
that's $500,000, $750,000 US in a single order. Like,
yes.
Wow. And so if you're going to put that money down, you better know your international marketing, class, students, any of you that do an international marketing, like this, you need to pay attention to this. It's so critical. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Very good question. Very, very good question. Okay, Eddie, come on, guys and girls. There's only 15. Put down something. Any more? More questions, please. Okay, I better, some of you are sleepy, so I better wish you a good night, good week, and good health. And don't forget, in the Google Hangouts, ask me anything, happy to help. And looking forward to the 2 group presentations next week. It's going to be fun. The 2 groups that presented tonight, very good effort. It wasn't a copy of last week. You were a little bit more innovative. It was different from last week, which is great. I like you had your own individual approach, and one group had to work with an audit, which was a little bit more, in some ways, a little bit more challenging. But both groups tonight, you kept close to your time limits, which is very, very good for class interaction. And also you're a little bit innovative on interaction using the online polling. So well done on that. Great efforts. Good night, everyone. If there's no more questions, good night. Stay healthy. And don't forget to sanitize wherever you go, all right? So just be good. All right.
Good night. Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.